So here's an old 1890s SS Stewart banjo that had come to me a couple months ago. You can see there's a good bit of inlays, but the person brought it back to me after I talked to them because at some point some of the inlays went missing and somebody had filled that space with white putty, so I had to cut new inlays as per request from Pearl. And I just want to give a quick walkthrough of how I went about that in case you find yourself in that same sort of situation. First off, the Pearl I acquired from Stewart McDonald, and I got a few other things there as well, and I'll talk about that. But here's the finished product once again. The first thing was taking a knife and very carefully digging out that wood putty. Now, the wood putty itself was a fine solution for the situation. It certainly didn't damage anything, but I was very grateful it came out fairly easily, just using a series of different razors. Be very careful if you find yourself in this situation, not only so that you don't nick yourself, but so that you don't remove any of the wood. Once all that's removed and cleaned up as best you can, again, just by using a blade carefully, patiently, then I do like what you do at graveyards, and I take a piece of paper and a pencil and I place the paper over the missing inlay and I would do a rubbing. So again, don't push too hard or you'll tear the paper, but it will give you an impression, and that will look something like this here. So you can see the outline of the inlay itself, and then I would take that and I would highlight that outline just with a black marker, and then I would go to cut the inside. I'm going to trim the paper itself though down to sides because I'm going to glue it onto the Pearl, and there we are, just down to size, glued onto the Pearl, and then I'm ready to get with my jig. Here's my jig. It's just a jeweler saw and blades available from Stewart McDonald. There is the base I use, that wood with the notch in it. It has a cast iron bit that you can attach to a C-clamp, and it's very handy. Here I am cutting some of the inlay pattern. Make sure that you have some water, some tappies, or any sort of lubricant. Be very careful. That blade gets very hot, and you want to lubricate it periodically because those blades do snap. Thankfully, blades are cheap. Here is the inlay itself. There is a lot of final sanding. I'd rather be patient and sand carefully so that I can get the closest fit, because the tighter I can get the fit, the better everything's going to look in the end, and the less filler I'm going to have to use. And in fact, for this project, I didn't use any filler, and I was pleasantly surprised. I'm getting better, it would seem. Here is the headstock with its missing crescent. Here is the rough cut of the crescent before sanding. You always want to test fit. Here's one of those test fits, and you can see one of the edges there. Just needs a little bit more sanding to get in. Once you're done test fitting though, go ahead and glue it in. I use an epoxy, and then make sure it sticks up just a little bit, and then you're going to have to carefully sand flush. Here is the inlay of the crescent on the 3rd fret that has been sanded flush. Be very careful as you're doing it. Take a look at the coloration of what you're sanding. Make sure it's still that white pearl and that you're not getting into the wood. As the old people say, it's really easy to take stuff away. It's a lot harder to put it back. And here again is the banjo inlay completed. So there's that crescent moon on the 3rd fret. There's kind of that fleur pattern that points downward in the 1st fret. And then there is another crescent right below that moon there. Those were all replaced. Like I said, I'm getting better, I feel like. Hopefully this will be helpful. Again, make sure you're lubricating the jeweler saw. They can get hot, don't burn yourself, and they do snap periodically, but thankfully they are cheap. Here again is the banjo, and just a little bit. I love these Pennsylvania made SS Stewart banjos.